everybody. Thank you all for coming. This is Bobbie Moline-Kramer. She is our current artist at the campus gallery, and I know a lot of you have already seen the exhibition. For those of you who haven't seen it, after her talk, we'll walk over there and everyone can have a chance to see the work in person and congratulate her in person on the wonderful work. So quick background, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but so Bobbie attended Art Center where she received a degree in illustration, and then she went on to Cal State Long Beach, and she got a dual degree in both illustration and biology, correct?
Correct.
She worked as a biomedical illustrator for
About
number of years.
5, 6 years.
5, 6 years. Is a beautiful painter, and the wonderful thing about this exhibition that I think is really specifically wonderful for the students is it shows 3 different bodies of work. So you really see her transition. I think the work spans, is it 2005 to maybe 2015?
Right.
Is that about right?
About 10 years.
Yeah. So you really get to see how the work has evolved through these different bodies of work. The earlier pieces are very representational, very figurative, and then you see the work becoming more abstract, and you'll be touching on a little bit of that transition. So part of this gallery program that we have here at Moorpark College, it really is a teaching program, and it really is, to benefit the students. That's open, right? Is somebody trying to get in? So we try to bring in artists that we really think that our students can learn from and gain from, and that's part of the reason we asked the artists to do a talk for us to further that education. Bobbie is shown in a number of she's a Los Angeles artist and is shown in a lot of galleries and museums, both locally and nationally, and has a lot of shows going on right now, has just completed some shows and has some more coming up, so that's very exciting. Her work has been at the Museum of Contemporary Art, the Santa Monica Museum, a number of different galleries, so we have a bio that in the gallery you're welcome to take so you can see all the places she's been. We do have a lot of postcards, so I'm going to pass these around, and if anyone would like to take one, please do. And with all of that, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. So,
All right.
So
I'm going to go a little different. I want to talk to you about concept and what's behind the art, because I think that's something that's missed a lot of times when people talk about their art. I sold my first oil painting in 1958, probably about when your grandmothers were born. And so you don't have to do the math. I am going to be 70 this year. Okay. I have in my lifetime been everything from a model and a stewardess to a biomedical illustrator, to a teacher at Cal State Long Beach, to a printmaker, to a sculptor, and the list just keeps going on and on and on. Mainly because I have always followed, and been fortunate enough to do so, what I wanted to do. I've always followed my curiosities. It wasn't until about really maybe 5 months ago that I found out there's actually a term for people like me, other than what your parents call you. And we're called polymath people. And what that means is that's a person who follows their own curiosity, and they become quite proficient in any number of fields. In the 20th century, this was not particularly a virtue. In the 21st century, I think it's going to be a given. There is no longer the opportunity now to have one field, even in art, and stay in that for the rest of your life. You're not even going to stay in one gallery for probably longer than a couple of years. So the more skills, the more avenues, the more you explore, the better off you're going to be. And there's a combination that happens. I have almost never not gotten in a gallery that I wanted to be in. And it has to do with the fact that I have any number of bodies of work, of which you'll see 3 of them when we walk over to the gallery. These, I have gone from everything from trompe-l'oeil, which is French word for fool the eye, it's hyperrealism. I've gone from everything from that to very gestural drawings to abstract expressionism. And I'm currently doing abstract expressionism, and I'm doing it because it fascinates me. I have virtually, other than the commercial career, never done a painting for money. Is that necessarily a good thing? Maybe not. There are painters who are involved in 6, 8, 10 galleries, and that's what it takes to make a living in fine art, who virtually do the same thing time after time after time. They don't use the same palette, and eventually there is an evolution to their work. However, if you were to look at the first painting they did and the last painting they did, it's pretty much the same. And that's fine. They're called specialists. And that's fine. They're making a living at it. It's a tough field to make a living at. Good for them. I just never could do it. It isn't that I didn't want to do it, I just couldn't do it. Because everything I have always done has been something that has been invented on the spot. And to try and redo something that I've done before, almost impossible. So when people ask me, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Or they'll ask me, how long did it take you to do a painting? And I'll tell them it took about 65 years. Because you are the composite of everything that you've done. So if you, other than the fact that you actually have to produce something for grades, which I understand that. Any free time that you have, go explore other avenues. You never, ever know where it's going to lead and what's going to happen because of that. Okay? To me, that's the most important thing that you can do. The second most important thing you can do in college, talk to the people around you. College is good for 2 things. It's good for learning hard skills, and it's good for the contacts you're going to make while you're there. So my advice is that you're in the perfect place to meet people. You guys are just beginning. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to be here. And so talk to the people, find out who does what, and follow them. Make sure you keep in contact with them. Go into a university setting. If you go for the master's, go to the most prestige school that you can find. Many of the top 5% of the painters in the United States today went to Yale, which is what? But Yale happens to have an absolutely unbelievable master's program for painters. So back to the polymath people, the people who have skills in all kinds of different levels. There's something happening in this century which I find absolutely fascinating, and I plan to live till I'm about 120 so I can take advantage of it. And that's that there is an intersection that happens between people who are in 2 different disciplines. And you're seeing it now with installation, and you're seeing it with performance art. So you have someone who's good at painting, you have someone who's good at music. And when they combine the 2, it's the innovation and the newness of the creative art form happens where the 2 of them meet. And all of a sudden you have something that has never, ever come down before. And it's fascinating. I was in Dallas, Texas at one of the shows there. And yes, I had all of the prejudice that a Californian has about Texas. Except that Texas happens to be phenomenally good at supporting their artists. California, not so much. But Texas was amazing. Anyway, story. This guy started out as a fashion photographer. Ah, okay. Yeah. He got bored, which, would take me about 2 seconds, but it took him about 5 years to get bored. So he wanted to find out what would happen if he shot models in flowing clothes in the ocean. What? How do you get there? So he hired models. He talked a couture house, into paying for it, and he started to shoot photograph models underwater in the sea. He couldn't complete the photo shoot because the garbage in the oceans kept getting in the way. That pissed him off. So he then got a hold of a biochemist, because he wanted to find out if there was anything that he could do, any way he could promote getting rid of the garbage in the ocean. So we've gone from a runway now to under the ocean dealing with trash. They in turn hooked up with another man. They formed, and this is what I mean by it happens on the edges. They formed a corporation. When you walk into the art gallery to view this man's work, it's video, you put on an apparatus which reads your brainwaves. And you can virtually make the trash in the ocean disappear by thinking happy thoughts. It was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And it happened because some dude got curious about garbage in the ocean. Now, what would have come down if he had been a painter and gone, okay, I'm doing eucalyptus trees for the rest of my life? No. If you can push, go for it. And that's what I mean by making connections. You have an interest in figuring out why a glowworm works? Go talk to someone who knows. And they love talking to students. They love it. One of the latest things in performance art right now is that not only as the person sings or acts, is the electrical energy from their body converted into a picture on a screen, it's also converted into a geometric shape and a color. And so you can watch someone dance and it will mirror the feeling that you're having because the colors mirror the feeling. It's the most amazing thing ever. There are people who are born who know exactly what they're going to do with their life the minute they're born, and they never veer off the path. They're specialists. And, great on them. I never did. Even among the specialty, even if you know you're going to be in art, what's to prevent you from pushing the edge? And now's the time to do it. You don't have to make a living at it, right? So now would be the time to do it. Push. What's the worst that could happen? You're going to get a C. You're going to fail. So, one of the classes I was in at Art Center, and by the way, if you go to Art Center, you have no life. Because you have 8 classes per term. There's 3 to 4 terms per year, and each class requires 1 piece of work per week per class. So I wanted to go out one night. There was a lecture I wanted to hear. I went out. I finished the drawing in about 5 minutes, turned it in, and he burned it in front of the class. Failing helps. I never did it again. And I'm pretty fast at drawing. I can get away with it most of the time. So that's the first thing about coming into this century, is that you form partnerships with other people in other disciplines. The second thing that happens is that you learn a lot faster, because you learn something until it doesn't interest you anymore. I know that's radical, I know you're supposed to learn something until you actually get a degree in it. Teachers, close your ears. Now, you don't have to do that. You just learn something until the interest isn't there any longer, and then you have learned what you need to learn. So this kind of thing makes you learn a lot faster. And the third thing that happens that's absolutely magical, very early on you discover that taking a risk is no big deal. And that, plus the fact that you can turn on a dime, is going to guarantee that you're going to do just fine in this century. So, that's it. That's my advice. You have questions, I hope? Yeah.
How did you survive doing a project a week for all of the classes? How did you do that?
I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for about 3 years. Here's what happens, and this is sort of like a formula, it happens to everyone. And I spent at least 6 years going through the am I good enough stage. What? Yeah, you're good enough. Okay, I'll tell you all right now, you have my blessing, you're all good enough. Okay? And so it stopped me. It slowed me down from doing things and exploring areas because I was continuously concerned with technique. You do something 100 times, trust me, you're going to get better at it. So the first term that I was at Art Center, I just sweated bullets because I virtually didn't sleep. I thought about hiring people. Can you come in and do this job? And then I just went, oh, to hell with it. And I did the work. And the work got a lot more free. The work got better because I just wasn't concerned. And I wasn't concerned with staying in the lines, is what it ended up being. Yeah, it's doable. I did 132 pieces of commercial artwork in 1 year. That's what? How many is that? I don't know. 3 a week? About 3 a week. And I had Christmas off.
Other questions?
Yeah.
How many different mediums did you explore? How many different, you said you did sculpture and now you're painting. How many other things have you tried, like scratchboard and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I've tried just about everything. The only thing that I just can't get behind is painting on canvas. And I just had like a meltdown one day trying to do that. I'm happier with a slick surface. But part of the work that you're going to see, the tree, the 11 pieces that form my family tree, I actually dug out and found a wood burning kit from when I was about 12. And those trees are burned in there. Okay, and then they're gessoed on top of it. I will go to an art exhibit and go to an art exhibit not looking so much at technique, because that's, technique comes out of who you are. It's not an artificial thing that's laid on top of you. I'm absolutely not afraid to A, steal from anyone, or B, give them credit for it. Why? I mean, once I've stolen it, it's mine. I'm not giving it back. And when you go to a gallery, look at what's new. Look at what they're doing. Not only concept-wise, but look at what they're doing. I love glitter, I gotta tell you. I like sequins, I like flash and trash. And I've yet to do a painting that's worked out very well with it. It's coming.
Do you mind, you made
made reference to the tree piece, and a lot of the students have already seen the show, and we're all going to be going there soon. Do you mind saying a few words about each of the 3 bodies of work in terms of how they came about and what they're about?
Okay. I've never, believe it or not, been particularly interested in portraying either a thing or a person. I'm just not interested in it. I am interested in the psychological. I've always been curious about why. Not so much how as why. So the face-to-face series is not a portrait of people, it's a portrait of emotions. And the pieces that were at the extremes, the crying people, the screaming people, that sort of thing, this doesn't bode well for people, but those sold first. I never would have suspected it. And so in order to do the piece, because I had the concept that I wanted to do that, and so I put out the word to a friend of mine who's an actor and who's one of the people who started one of the schools. And I said, I need actors, because in my mind, I hadn't done enough research. I thought that emotions could be acted. No, they can't. Emotions are inherited, and that's how profilers work. You can read someone's face. You cannot disguise what you're feeling. And everyone's like, okay. You can read someone's face in less than a second if you're open for doing it. And so the emotion that you portray most of the time is who you are, unfortunately. So if you have unexpected photos taken of yourself and you see something you don't like, you probably need to change. Just saying. So when I hired these actors, I thought, okay, cool. I'm going to get these people. I got dictionary definitions. There's 7 emotions. And there are degrees within emotions, and then there are combinations of emotions. You can be angry and sad at the same time. Okay? So I had dictionary definitions of the emotions. I handed it to each model. I had 140 some models apply. I narrowed it down to 20. And I just had them read and get into the emotion, and I photographed it. I took 6 rolls of each actor, and then I took the ones that had turned out, like say for laughter. So you have 30 some models, 6 rolls, maybe you have 10 shots of each model doing laughter. I spread them out on the table, and if I'd been doing that thing now, you guys would have got to be part of it. And I said, pick out the one that best portrays laughter. Every group picked out the same person. God's truth. Everyone could read the same face. And that's how I got the paintings. That's how the show came. The opening of the show was on Wilshire Boulevard at Copacan Gallery, and all the models showed up. They didn't all stay, because some of them thought I shouldn't have done them that way. And there was one guy in particular that was so angry that, we thought we were going to have to escort him out. He was totally pissed that I would paint him that way. The birds. There's 11 of them. When you put them together, they form a tree. It's my family tree. I killed all my relatives. It was a bad year. So I turned all my relatives into birds, and then I hung them in trees. And the ones that are still living, okay, I let them live. But they turned into crows. And they're in very particular positions, and it is the position that they're in and the attitude that those people in my family recognize themselves. And they don't talk to me either. That whole piece was executed from start to finish on that drawing painting. It was done in 3.5 weeks. It's not the execution, it's the concept. If you're excited about what you're doing, it's cool. You can get it done really fast. If it's an assignment and you're like, oh, I'm not, turn it into something, find some part of it that interests you. Warp some part of it so it interests you. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. As above, so below. At this point, what was happening was that historically, I used to take my paintings when they wouldn't sell, and trust me, whether they sell or not has little to do with the artwork. It has to do with where it's at, which was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because I kept thinking, you know, there's something wrong with me because it's not selling and I like it. No, there's nothing wrong with me. It's in the wrong place. So when it gets in the right place, it sells. But before that, what I would do would be I would cut them into pieces. And what I found, much to my surprise, I'm asked a lot of times to be in group shows. I'm asked a lot of times to donate work. And so those were the pieces that I often donated, the pieces that I had cut up. But I also found that once they were cut up, they sold. So it was either composition, or it was that everyone lives in a shoebox. I don't know what it is. And of course, if you cut one painting into 4 pieces and all 4 pieces sell, bingo, you've made more money than if you left the damn thing alone to start with, right? And then it got to the point where I could not do one more hyper-realistic anything. I was done. I just stick a fork in me, I was done. The last hyper-realistic piece I did was reflective silver that was fluted. It was a teapot that was fluted on all the edges, and I put my own reflection in each one of those flutes. And there were 75 of them. I was done. And it sold in 5 seconds, and I didn't care. So I started throwing paint, which was the most radical thing that someone who is a hyper-realist could do. I owned no brushes that were not double aughts. For me, a number 1 brush was huge. It was like, oh my God, look at all the hair in this brush. I now own brushes that are this big. I don't even know how big they are. They don't have names, you know. I then went from throwing paint, little hissy fit, picture, you know, what happens, to taking, I have a very good friend who lives in San Diego that I had a life-changing experience, and she came up and said, okay, you know what? This room is never going to be a guest room again. And she took everything out of it and piled it on my front deck. I'm like, what? You can't do that. Yes, I can. And so I turned it into a splatter room. True story. The walls are the walls. The floor is covered with tarp. Everything that's protected, that needs protecting, is protected. And I stand in the middle of the room and I throw paint. I have a wonderful time. It is so much fun. It's really great. It's really fun to do. And then I threw a piece of paint and it stuck on a thing, and so I thought, well, I'm going to life drawing. I'll use it as a background. The drawing sucked. I brought it home and I thought, well, I can throw more paint. And I covered it up. After about the 6th time of doing that, I had this most incredible picture I've ever seen. And you're holding it in your hand. That's thrown paint. And there's life drawings underneath that. Okay, I'm on a roll now. So I've gone from sort of being able to duplicate something to not in a million years. If someone sees it and they like it, they better buy it, because it's never going to happen again. So now you're caught up to date. That's what we're doing. All right.
So you said that you've been able to show in whatever gallery you wanted.
Mhm.
Could you explain a bit about that process for us and how you navigated it?
Sure. This is California, and it's Southern California on top of it. And this has to do with Gesundheit, with a kind of confidence. I take in normally my iPad if I'm going to go. I now have a PR person, and I also have an agent. So, in all fairness, you know, I don't.
How did you work that out?
Oh. I had been in several shows. I've been in museums. And it just got to the point where I couldn't do everything. So a friend of mine who owns a gallery said, you know, I've got a really good PR person. Come talk to them. And, you know, held out my hand and we made a deal. I pay her a stipend every month. And then when a big show comes down, she cranks. The last show I had, which was in Chinatown, I had 24 pieces of press on that show. That's unheard of. Yeah, it's just unheard of. So she's, as far as I'm concerned, she's worth her weight in gold.
And the agent, how does that work?
I belong to an organization called 825, the LA Art Association. You have to be juried in, and they're just boogers. I mean, you know, there's no rhyme nor reason to it. They just pick people out of the air to be jurors. So you never know, you know, you're just like, oh. You just never know what's going to come down. If you can get in, it's worth it to get in. And I've been a member for a long time. I don't sell through there anymore because the prices, you know, it's an emerging organization. I continue to belong to it because I believe in supporting them. So they had a speaker one day, and this woman is an agent who handles people across the world, mainly the United States though, and she arranges shows in not-for-profit organizations, museums, art centers, blah, blah. And I thought, yeah, it's time. It was just time. I'd been in a lot of regional galleries. I'd been in almost every regional museum. And it was just time to branch out. So could I have done all the work myself? Maybe. Probably not, though. I mean, there's only so much time in the day. So you're either going to paint, you know, or do what you do, or, you know, or you're going to go do business. So I contacted her, and she said, I don't know. Come talk. So I flew to New York. We talked. We ran around to museum shows. I was with her for about 16 hours, which was way more than I'd bargained for. And came back, we talked some more, and she said, yes, except you don't have enough of a cohesive body of work. In other words, my being the fly that I'm encouraging you guys to be was working against me. And I said, what happens if we combine them all and tell and show people that's how you get from A to Z? And she goes, yeah, I think it would work. So I have 53 pieces of art, of which 29 are in down here. Last year, I was in 2 museums, 2 art centers across the United States, and one person show. This year, I will have been in 4 different venues, and 1 group show, and a very good possibility of another solo show. Next year, or the year after that, that's, what is that, 2018? I will be in 2 major museums across the United States, and then 2019 I'll be in Chicago in the park, in the major museum. So another person worth her weight in gold.
So So for people who are just starting out, before you
Enter
met
as
these
many.
people, how would they go about it?
Okay, there's a website called Cafe. Check it out. Start entering things. You need to have little things after your name. You know, you need to show people that you've been places, that you've been in a group show, that do POPs. You know about POPs? Pop-ups? Organize a bunch of your friends. I know this is radical. And invite everyone you know. Everyone knows, you know at least 10 people. Yeah? Get cards made. You never know. Invite the grocer, who cares? They may buy a $50 piece of work. Their son may go on to be famous. Invite everyone you know, and for one night, have an art show in someone's house. Okay, why not? You have absolutely nothing to lose. Yeah.
How did you be able to price out your pieces?
Oh, I don't do it. I initially started with, I tried to start with the way they tell you to, because I was very successful in commercial art. And by that, I mean that I made, several years I made 6 figures in commercial art. And so in commercial art, you price according to the amount of time that you've spent. Good luck with fine art. So I was very low priced in the beginning in fine art, because I wanted them gone. When I die, I want my heirs to not have anything. I want there to be no paintings there, nothing. So, you know, buy it now. And it worked. I got picked up by a gallery, and they said the prices are too low, and I went, oh. And they priced it according to their clientele. Then I went to the next gallery, and the next, and the next, and it's an accumulation, is what it is.
How do you structure your work time, or do you not structure your work time? I'm
Well-
not talking about your shows and your whatever. How do you work?
Yeah, studio time. I figured out a long time ago it's who I am. So I really don't have a life outside this. No. And then I moved in with someone that didn't help, because he's a musician and doesn't have a life outside that. So the two of us just work 24/7. And one of the wonderful things about being an adult, which is, this is really cool, I can get up at 2 in the morning, and I can go downstairs and eat anything I want. And then I can go in the studio and make as much noise as I want. And there's no one who's gonna, he may wake up and go, I'm going back to sleep. I'll go, cool, I'll close the door. And that's it. I mean, there's something really wonderful about allowing yourself the freedom to do what you want to do. And by the way, the whole world will hate you. The envy factor is huge when you allow yourself the kind of freedom to do exactly what you want to do. And bonus, artists get a free pass just directly across society's lines. I get to hang with really, really rich people, and I get to hang with really, really poor people. I get a free pass. More questions?
All right, well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.